How y'all doing? Daniel Gaines here. I'm just gonna do a update real quick. Had some folk asking about it. So here's what's going on. There was a court hearing that was scheduled for yesterday to determine or set a new trial date and such. I didn't go. Had no intention of going. However, the reason I didn't go and had no intention is because the judge cannot preside over the case. He is one that is being sued by me. It was filed, he's been served, and all before yesterday. They were all served. They all got their copy last week. They were all served last week. Outside of that, what happened at the hearing, if he actually recused, because I filed motions for him to disqualify himself and the prosecutor, since Prosecutor Dugan, Emmons, and Jalissa Kunzel, whatever her name is, she's a former judge. They're all being sued as well for fraud before the court, deprivation of rights, intentional torts, and this is all four of those that I've named: Stuckmeyer, Kunzel, or whatever Jalissa's last name is, Emmons, and Dugan. Let's see, anyway. There's intentional torts, deprivation of rights, fraud before the court, violations of codes of conduct, ethics violations, conspiracy against civil rights, due process violations, which deprivation of rights under color of law falls into that, and a few actual crimes other than the fraud before the court. So, and treason is also part of the suit against Stuckmeyer and the prosecutors. Yes, I accuse them of treason, and I have the evidence. I'll be able to easily prove that. But I don't know what happened at the hearing because they don't give me the court documents. They don't provide me with copies of the orders or anything else. They do these things, and I'm not informed. The last hearing, they've still yet to give me copies of the orders that were entered at that hearing. This one, Molly, the judge's clerk, Stuckey's clerk, was actually emailed asking if the judge recused or not, disqualified himself or not, and they just refused to provide me documents, which they're required to do. It's really pathetic, to be quite frank, but it's a common problem here in Missouri. It's the public servants are corrupt, and it's not just Missouri, it's most states, but here in Missouri it's pretty bad. Case in point, if you get on YouTube and go to the channel The Civil Rights Lawyer, about an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, he posted a video of something that happened in St. Louis County, where an off-duty officer who was intoxicated drove into a construction zone and tried to make a turn where they were doing the construction at, and they had it blocked off to where he couldn't turn. He started demanding he be allowed to go through because he was a police officer, even though he wasn't in a police car, was in his personal vehicle, off-duty, and drunk. So he had no legal authority. And because they wouldn't let him through, this off-duty officer decided to start assaulting and attacking the construction workers. St. Louis County police showed up. They kept the officer there for like 5 hours detained and had him in handcuffs and stuff. Basically, they let him stay there long enough to sober up, and then they literally let him drive home. 10 days after, the construction workers were set to do a media interview, and St. Louis County Police Department came and arrested him to keep him from being able to expose what happened. The prosecutor refused to pursue charges against the officer, at least it's the way it appears, but yet these guys who were assaulted are facing multiple felony charges. The judge in the case, a judge in St. Louis County, decided to seal the records. The officer's name, prosecutor's name, and everything. You can't get any of the information. So an off-duty cop who's drunk assaults construction workers, violating a couple laws in the process and then engaging in an assault, he's allowed to keep his job, not get in any trouble at all, But yet the people he assaulted are now facing charges because they had the audacity to attempt to do a media interview to expose it. That's the type of corruption we're dealing with here in Missouri. It's far from just me. I'm just the one who's an asshole and going to expose it. They can try and arrest me all they want. It ain't going to go the way they fucking think. Not saying I'm going to resist or anything, but they arrest me. The copies of everything that are out there, those all go public the instant they do. And there's 5 copies. And the platforms they get released on, well, millions and millions are going to see it. One of the contacts who has a copy of everything actually works for a national media organization, and it'll get released there as well. At least some of it, the more severe parts. So I'm not worried about it. And in the end, everything's going to be released publicly and on these same platforms anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But back to my case, I can't really give an update because they refuse to tell me anything. Weird how that works, huh? They're required to provide me with copies of all this, but yet they refuse to do it. My guess, I'm actually torn on this. Part of me thinks Stuckmeyer is going to be smart enough to do the right thing, but for him to engage in all kinds of criminality, including treason from the bench, also makes me think he's going to deny the motion and try to stay on the case. And since they refuse to provide anything, won't update, put anything in CaseNet to that way I can at least go and get the information myself, I really have no idea. Judge Stacey, the presiding judge in Jefferson County, refuses to address any of these issues. She won't get involved, won't handle things, won't make sure her judges are actually in compliance with the law and honoring their oath of office. It appears as though she's just as complicit in the corruption as these other judges. Now, I could be wrong on that, but so far, she ain't shown me shit. It's being allowed to go on. But we'll see. Hopefully I'll know tomorrow, and then I can show you all the orders and let y'all see what's going on. But outside of that, I really don't know much. Because again, Judge Stacey doesn't require the judges in this county to comply with the law. And that's the only way it can be stated, because if she required it, they would. So we have a presiding judge who's just as fucking corrupt, it appears. And that's fine. Because, well, eventually there's going to be investigations into all this shit. Or, well, the government's just going to keep pushing the people, and there's going to be a revolution in this country, in which case I'm going to be the biggest fucking mouth in the nation, saying that all the judges should be held to a higher standard than the politicians who everybody's going to want to remove. And that's my honest belief, because the judges are ultimately the problem. Every judge in this country has the authority and the power to stop the corruption, but yet they refuse because their pockets get lined if they go along with it. See, Judge Stacey doesn't understand that I'm more informed and knowledgeable than I let on, at least in terms of the RICO violations. See, I can tie money directly that the state gets from the federal government to her bank account. But it's not just her, so don't get it twisted. It's all the judges in this state. So they're actually incentivized to violate the law and violate your rights. Financially incentivized at that. Judge Stacey is no different. And I have the documents, I can prove it. All you got to do is go to the Attorney General's website in your state. Whatever state you're in, it doesn't matter. Go to the Attorney General's website, look at Title 4D funds that they get from the federal government, and see where all those funds go. You'll find it just as easily as I did. Now, aside from that, the protective order is still set for the 14th of next month. However, here's how fucking corrupt the courts are. Email was sent to the circuit court, because that's where the protective order case is, requesting a subpoena. The clerk who responded refused to provide a subpoena, instead stated, if I wanted a subpoena, I had to file a motion with the court and see if the court would allow me to subpoena a witness. Yeah, the courts have to, trying to say the courts have to give you permission to subpoena a witness, a non-cooperating witness. No, that's not how that works. In fact, all I should have to do is request the subpoena, and I should get it. Because they can't tell me who I can and can't have as witnesses. Now, if the witnesses don't want to participate, they can get a lawyer or file an objection on their own to quash the subpoena, and then the courts can decide upon that. But the issuance of a subpoena, oh, no, I don't have to file a fucking thing, but yet there's an email that says that that's what's required. And Judge Stacey allows that type of shit. Which is fine, because ultimately they're just going to keep playing fucking games, and the clerks are going to get Stacey sued. Because at the end of the day, she's responsible for everything and everyone that everyone and everything that happens in that courthouse as the presiding judge. Just like tomorrow, whenever I show up in person to get the subpoena, I'm going to have my body cam on. They're going to try to tell me I'm not allowed to record in the building, in which case I'm going to straight reply, watch me. And if they try to say anything, I'm going to straight tell them, you may want to go get Judge Stacey and let her know that it's Daniel Gaines whose rights you're trying to violate. I guarantee you they go to her and say that to her, she's going to tell them to back off. Because, well, she's got somebody, her clerk, watching my videos. Literally. She's not even part of the case, not the judge on the case, but yet she's got somebody stalking my fucking YouTube and Facebook to watch my videos, which is fine. They should be a bit nervous. I'm coming for all their careers. But anyway, while there, I will be taking my body cam and holding it up to show a piece of paper they have on the board right behind the clerk's window. It says something along the lines of, you can't video record the clerks, you can't audio record or video record inside the courthouse or at the clerk's window. But yet, there's no legal citing behind it. Just some bullshit court rule, I think, is all it is. The problem, though, state law, Missouri Revised Statute of Missouri, 542.402.2, again, 542.402.2, literally states Missouri is a one-party consent state. The only caveat to that is inside a courtroom, not a courthouse, a courtroom, in which case it is at the express consent of the judge alone. So each judge in their own courtroom. They can't stop you from recording in a courthouse. The Supreme Court's very fucking clear on that, and Judge Stacey thinks she has the authority to say, fuck the Supreme Court, I have more pull than they do. However, Judge Stacey also would be a fucking clown-ass fool if she thought state law could block someone from recording. Now, I don't know anything about her, and she may not even have this view. It may have been another judge who did it before her, or whatever else. But as a presiding judge, again, she's responsible. So if you look at federal statute 18 U.S.C. 2511 subsection 2, section 2 subsection D, it states, as it applies to the states, one-party consent is all that's needed. Now, the difference between the state and federal law, the federal statute does not have the courtroom exclusion. It just says one-party consent. And since recording public officials and public servants in the official course of their duty is constitutionally protected by the First Amendment's freedom of the press clause, that specifically, the supremacy clause is in effect if you're trying to record for public awareness or preserve a record or anything else. And if the supremacy clause is in effect, Howlett v. Rose, a 1990 U.S. Supreme Court case, literally states that state judges cannot disassociate themselves or ignore federal law because they disagree with it, with its consent or with its superior authority. And that means that if federal law and state laws clash, the courts must comply with federal law, not state, which means they can't stop you from recording. Further, the Supreme Court has held that a courtroom is the original public forum. And the Supreme Court is of the opinion you can record court proceedings. Now, if it gets to be overwhelming or it gets to be to where it's causing distractions or causing problems, then it can be limited and restricted. Short of that, they can't stop it. So, seeing as I'm going to continue recording court hearings, whether they fucking like it or not, and I will embarrass any of these clowns who try to stop it, judges or not, I'll embarrass the fucks. It'd probably be smart, since Judge Stacey's watching this anyway, it'd probably just be smart if before I get there tomorrow, Judge Stacey goes ahead and signs an order saying, I'm allowed to record. They can't stop me, in a courtroom or not. And I'll even leave an exception that I have to be a party. Otherwise, then, well, as long as it's not interfering, they can't stop it anyway. But either way, I'm not filing anything. I'm just going to record. Like I said, let them stop me or attempt it. They won't succeed. They'll just embarrass themselves and get embarrassed by the guy who's never even stepped foot in a law library. But they all know I'll win. That's why these court hearings I've recorded, ain't now a word been said. Not a fucking word, even though I ain't never asked the judge, never had their permission. They ain't never said a word. And I've put recorders on the fucking table so they knew it was being recorded. And from now on, I'm going to be wearing my body cam, the other 2 hidden cameras I have, and the 2 audio recorders I take into every court proceeding. The body cam's the only one that doesn't go with me. Everything else will be. And they'll all be on. So I'll have multiple views, multiple recordings, just to that way they can't accuse me of anything. Because that's what they like to do. When you've got them beat, they try to make up things and accuse you of things. That way they can paint you as some type of way. And that's what they're trying to do. So, long story short, this was much longer than it was meant to be. The trespass case, there's no update to provide because they refused to provide me any information about the case. That's right, a criminal case that they fabricated and falsified to bring against me, they refused to provide me any information on. I keep waiting on Stuckey to have a warrant issued for my arrest because I didn't show up to the court hearing yesterday, even though he was legally barred from holding that hearing because he is defendant Stuckmeyer, not Judge Stuckmeyer. No, Stuckey is defendant, at least as it relates to me. So, yeah, that's the update. And don't worry, when their lawyers respond to the lawsuit, I will be posting the entire responses from their lawyers on a video for everybody to see. And then when I type up my response, I'll also be posting that. So y'all are going to see everything that they're saying and trying to pull and everything else. The beauty of it is with the lawsuit, the initial filing, in fact, I've already provided the evidence. So they can't claim it didn't happen. They can't claim I'm wrong or I'm lying. The evidence is already in the courts. Shouldn't fucking play games. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. They were warned. So, Judge Stacey's going to continue to ignore these issues, and all it's going to do is ensure that her ass comes under investigation too before it's all said and done. Because again, accountability is what I'd rather have than anything else. And the only way there's going to be any accountability is if outside agencies step in and start looking into it. Because the judges in this county are corrupt as fuck. Sheriff's Department's corrupt as fuck. The prosecutor's office is corrupt as fuck. Andrew Bailey's a corrupt piece of shit. And so is his office. I don't think there's an ethical attorney or judge in the entire state of Missouri that works for the state of Missouri. Now, I don't know for sure because I haven't met them all, but the 98 different judges I know about and have information on let's just say it doesn't bode well for the judiciary in the state of Missouri. Let's just say when everything starts coming out, it's going to be fucking jarring. It's going to be shocking to the conscience. It's going to outright piss people the fuck off. And I love it. I'm here for it. See, is what they won't tell you is the Constitution is for keeping them in check, not us. They won't tell you the explicit purpose of the Second Amendment is to ensure that none of the other ones are getting violated by the government. And if the government does start violating the other amendments, the second is how we deal with it. The Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, they literally authorize the populace, the citizens of this country, to remove tyrants from office by any means, up to and including the Second Amendment. Now, I don't advocate violence. I'd rather it all be through the courts. However, I'm also fully aware in society, all things have a time and a place. Violence should always be a last resort. But what happens when they don't give you any other choice? And that's the question to ponder. They won't answer that question. When you ask, they accuse you of making threats for simply asking a question. The reason they won't answer is because they know that, technically speaking, if we were to comply with the Constitution, we already have cause. And they'd all be fucked. See, back in the day, there were gallows that dealt with these type of issues. Unfortunately, they've given themselves all kinds of protections to ensure that their corruption is allowed to go unchecked. Well, it's up to us citizens to ensure that doesn't happen. And how do we do that? We audio record everything around these motherfuckers. Sue them if they fuck up. That's how we deal with it. Because regardless of anything, you might lose the lawsuit, sure. But one person files a lawsuit against 10 different judges. Yeah, they might lose. But that kind of can't be ignored, can it? Why do they have reason to keep filing these suits? Whether they are successful or not, what's going on that keeps giving them grounds to do so? See, so enough defeats even achieves the same thing. However, this one's going to be hard for them to get out of. Because like I said, the courts already have the evidence. And what are they going to do? Allow these judges to keep doing this shit unchecked? I mean, as is, because of the fraud, they don't have jurisdiction. I don't even have to show up for trial. They can't do shit about it if I don't. Fraud cannot be the basis for anything. And since the entire criminal matter is through fraud and fraud alone, because they falsified the fucking charging documents, they're acting in a complete absence of jurisdiction. Anything they do is void anyway. Doesn't matter if it's in my favor or theirs. It's void. It's of no legal force and effect. It doesn't fucking matter because of the fraud. And they refuse to correct it. Judge Stacey's aware of this, and she refuses to address it. Hell, Jalissa is the top prosecutor for Jefferson County for this shit. She refuses to address it. And what's funny, that bitch is used to be a judge. So that bitch knows good and goddamn well she doesn't have a choice, but the fuckhead won't do it. And that's the state of the judiciary in Jefferson County, Missouri. Oh, don't worry. Just wait till these audio recordings of what Stuckey did come out. In one of them, you'll hear the bailiff come out and tell the person who was in there with me to witness it that the judge was kicking them out of the courtroom because the judge was closing the courtroom. This is defendant Stuckey. Only for defendant Stuckey about 30 minutes later to say, just like closing the court. I can't close the courtroom because it's a violation of your Sixth Amendment right. But yet you just did. You just kicked somebody out who said that they wanted to witness this and then admit that you just violated their rights. At another point, I asked a question seeking legal information. Him and Dugan both stated, well, I can't answer, you're seeking legal advice. And in the audio, you'll hear me, I don't know if you'll hear me step over to the table, but Dugan called us up to ask if we could approach the bench because he thought my recorders wouldn't be able to pick it up. So he was trying to keep it off the record. It was a Star Chamber session, meaning no record, no witnesses, reminiscent of King George I would be proud of Stuckey. Kind of makes you wonder if Stuckey is a descendant of King George I. But anyway, I digress. Whenever they said they couldn't provide legal information because I was seeking legal advice, I walked back to the table, picked up a piece of paper, and read 2 short paragraphs from the Judicial Code of Conduct. Stuckey straight up said, "Yes, Mr. Gaines, you are correct. That is what my code of conduct says, and I do have to comply." And then without even asking again or further prompting, he answered the same question he just said he couldn't answer because I was seeking legal advice. Him answering the question without being asked again because I cited his code of conduct is an admission. The courts must view that as an admission that he attempted to violate his code of conduct, got caught. So he's guilty of it. He just corrected when he was called out, but he still blatantly did so, knowing he's not allowed. And again, that's the state of the judiciary in Jefferson County. And Barbara Stacey, I believe her name's Barbara. Either way, Judge Stacey, the presiding judge, refuses to do anything about any of it. Well, that's all right. She's gonna have some difficult questions here very fucking soon. Next month, in fact, she's gonna have to answer to the state Supreme Court, such as why did the outside judge that we brought in for the simple protective order get disqualified and is being sued, and why do you need another outside judge? She's fucked right there. There ain't no sufficient reason why the judges in Jefferson County won't deal with it, unless, of course, they're too scared to deal with me in court. I mean, do they know I'll beat them that bad? Is that really why they're so scared? Because they know that it's going to be that bad for them, that how bad they're beat? I mean, I know it's embarrassing to get beat by somebody who's not a lawyer when you're a judge, but quit putting me in a position where I get to embarrass you. Especially whenever I'm the guy that's sitting here saying, I just want the law complied with. Nothing more. I don't want or need special treatment. Period. But yeah, that's all I got. There's really no update to provide because the presiding judge doesn't require the judges to comply with the law, and they don't. They don't provide documents, orders, or anything else. So, yeah, I have no clue what's going on with the trespass case. But as soon as I find something out, y'all will be the first to know. I assure you. Y'all will see the order in its entirety. And then, like I said, whenever their attorneys respond to the lawsuit, y'all will see that in its entirety. I will be showing the full pages and every page in every filing. And y'all can make of it what you want. Because I'll also show you what I filed in my suit. And then y'all are going to see the evidence before it could ever go to trial, if it goes to trial. If it makes it past motions to dismiss, y'all already know and have heard all the evidence. So, even still. But keep in mind, judges in Jefferson County, Missouri, and the state of Missouri are elected officials, not appointed. So, the public has a right to know this. It's in the public interest to know this because, well, these corrupt fucks need to be voted out of office. Just like Stacey, for example. She's running for re-election unopposed. Well, depending on how this goes, there may be a recall. However, next election for her, well, I can't get into that yet. It's a spoiler, but she won't be unopposed. Let's just say that. And yours truly does play a part in that. But again, can't spoil too much yet. We'll wait till the next election. But she will have a challenger next time. And most likely, she won't win. Because the person who will be challenging her will have complete access to every bit of my information. For the explicit purpose of helping to ensure she doesn't win. Because, well, if nothing changes, nothing changes. We want change. These corrupt pieces of shit gotta go. And that means even the corrupt pieces of shit in robes. They're no better than you or I. The law applies to them the same as it does us. They're not fucking special. They just wish they were. They're actually the peasants, not us. Keep in mind, they work for us. Period. They're the servants. And that means if there's a servant, there has to be a master. Well, since they're the servants, we, the people, are the masters. We're their boss. They work for us. Period. So, that being said, that's all I got. I will be showing y'all whenever I get anything. Your guess is as good as mine on that. Contact Jefferson County Circuit Court. Reach out to them. Blow them up. Tell them that they need to fucking... Presiding judge needs to do her fucking job. I'll post the number tomorrow for the courthouse so y'all can call. I'll also post the number for the sheriff's department. Dave Marshak, his office, and Andy Side's office, so y'all can call them and address matters and issues with them. I've also got, well, I can't spoil too much, but there's a lot of irons and fires. Let's just say that. I don't put my eggs in one basket. Maybe about 30, but still. Anyway, I'll keep you all updated as I learn anything new, or just whenever I feel like it. Again, this weekend, do be looking for some of these audio recordings from the court hearings with Stuckey, so y'all can see that I'm not full of shit. Because, yeah, anybody can claim anything they want and talk a big game, but can you actually prove what you're saying? So stay tuned for Stuckey's expose this weekend, because, well, that piece of shit's getting exposed. And then I think from there I'm just going to start doing a regular series every couple months. Now, in between there will be other things, but I think once every couple months I'm going to do an expose on a different judge, just to start airing out every bit of their dirty laundry, because, well, it needs to be done. I'm debating on if I want to actually make full judicial records available, like Stuckmeyer's entire judicial record that you can't get. They won't allow you. It's not subject to Freedom of Information request or Sunshine Law request here in Missouri. I'll also be exposing the jacket of some corrupt police officers. And what I mean by their jacket is their entire fucking file as a cop. All disciplinary actions, all complaints against them, everything else. And again, this is stuff that you can't get access to outside of a lawsuit. I haven't gotten any of this stuff from a lawsuit. However, I do have access to the stuff. Anything that's provided to me, acting in a journalistic capacity, I can make public. So long as I don't obtain it through legal means, if it's given to me, I can make it public. Now, there are certain bits of information, personal information, that has to be redacted. And that will be. I'm not trying to put people's personal information out, at least as far as date of birth, phone numbers, socials, addresses, things of that sort. But as far as their misconduct and shit, oh yeah, we're going to do all that. So, if they want to keep playing games, I think it's time I escalate and play back. Sounds like a good plan. And maybe I'll start with Stacey, since at the end of the day, I blame her for every bit of the fucking corruption in this county anyway, as the presiding judge. However, realistically, I'm probably going to start with Carl Yates. There's a lot to expose about that corrupt piece of shit, especially from his time as the sheriff department's attorney. Y'all want to hear about how a judge who used to be an attorney threatened people with potential prosecution if they didn't drop lawsuits against the sheriff's department? Y'all want proof? Oh yeah, Carl. Wesley Carl Yates. Oh yeah. 3 different times you're guilty of it that I have the documentation for. Well, okay. 2 of them were recordings. One of them is documentation. But the documentation is also the one that you could possibly talk your way out of. Possibly. Still going to be difficult because of what's in there, but there is the possibility. So, we're going to see. It's going to get fun. It's going to get real. These people are fucked. They should have just complied with the law like I wanted from the start. And then this wouldn't be happening. Fuck around and find out. That's all I got for y'all. Not the people watching, but the public servants. All of them. I'll also be exposing Dorset, the judge that they're bringing in from Cape Girardeau, before the 14th. And it's quite possible I'm going to have him taken off of this case before it ever comes to the 14th of next month. But we'll see. I might just go ahead and wait till the 14th and remove him, just to add the extra embarrassment to the county and the courthouse. I'm undecided on that. But let's just say putting out a request for information, especially whenever you're wanting the goods on judges, people are just all too willing to provide you with documents all day long. They'll give you every fucking document that ever was a part of their case. Even their little fucking scribbled down notes, they'll provide you if it means possibly hemming up a judge that's corrupt. As said by the principal in the movie The Breakfast Club, mess with the bull, you get the horns. Peace.